You may notice we skipped over chapter 11, which consists of emerging adulthood, which is typically seen as the time between ages 18 to 25, or maybe even now 29. With more information and the way that our society is changing, the term updates. Emerging adulthood was only created in 2004, so it's a very new time period. And it's really characterized by more people going to college and putting off really big life decisions. Adulthood used to clearly start around age 18. People would graduate from high school, get married, get a job, and thus they're in adulthood. But now we're really seeing a lot of people putting that off for going to college, getting an education, maybe traveling, whatever that looks like. I would certainly argue that not everyone goes through emerging adulthood. Some people still go straight from high school into a marriage and a job and a family, whereas others may not. So it's an interesting time. If you have time, certainly read through the chapter. It's really interesting. We just didn't necessarily have time to cover it in this short 8-week class. You hit peak physical shape at around in your early 20s. And then we typically hit this kind of gradual decline after that. You'll start to notice your knees are hurting for no reason. And, it's a little harder to get out of bed in the morning because your muscles just aren't ready to cooperate. You just start to notice these little physical declines throughout. It's not to say it's guaranteed. Certainly, some people maintain a very active life through, gosh, 80s, 90s. You can go on and on. There's certainly people who are in great physical shape, probably even better than they were in their 20s. But generally, this period of the gradual decline is known as senescence. An allostatic load looks different based on a number of environmental factors, physical factors. If you carry a great deal of stress, maybe you're constantly managing many things at once, always multitasking. Sometimes these things really put a load on our body and can really decline our health, maybe impact our immune system and things. So sometimes our body is aging faster than what would naturally be expected, and that's kind of what the allostatic load looks at. Up until I don't know, 20 or 30 years ago, we really thought that the brain stopped developing after adolescence. We now know that the brain continues to grow and develop and learn new things and make these new connections throughout the lifespan. Sometimes you'll hear an adult maybe slow, they maybe seem slow to answer, but in reality they're processing and formulating a response and probably will come up with a great response. It just takes a little bit longer for us to process the information coming in. All of our senses do become less acute over time. So our vision typically declines, our hearing declines, sense of smell, all of these things kind of decline over time. We do have a great deal of technology now that can help us compensate for these changes as we get older. These next few slides are a little depressing. They just kind of look at how our outward appearance starts changing as we get older. Although sexual arousal tends to decline with age. Adults do generally report more physical satisfaction and physical pleasure and emotional satisfaction in their relationships. So we do see a lot of improvement in some of those sexual areas as adults get older. There are many factors that influence male and female infertility. For males in particular, infertility becomes more common with advanced age, radiation exposure, certain prescription drugs, stress, certainly, environmental toxins, drug abuse, maybe alcoholism or cigarette smoking. All of these things can reduce sperm number, shape, and motility of sperm. Female fertility is really affected by anything that impairs physical functioning. So, again, advanced age, maybe certain diseases, smoking, extreme dieting, obesity. These things can also reduce fertility for women. I would say that list is not comprehensive or the only things that may impair fertility. In this day and age, there are a lot of options to help improve fertility. Here are just two examples of that. The rates of opioid deaths have skyrocketed throughout the United States. Rates are continuing to rise amongst all age groups, and we're seeing really troubling trends throughout. So something to definitely keep an eye on. Table 12.1 in your book has more information on Sternberg's 3 forms of intelligence. Adult intelligence is difficult to assess because context is crucial. What kind of intelligence would you need to successfully herd camels in Saudi Arabia or to drive a taxi using an app that connects you to customers in Beijing? Every cognitive artifact needs to be considered for immediate and long-term. Multitasking is an example of selective optimization. In this image, the red shows the activated brain areas in London taxi drivers as they navigated the busy London streets. Not only were these areas more active than the same areas in the average person's brain, but they also had more dendrites. In addition, the longer a cabbie had been driving, the more brain growth was evident. This research confirms plasticity, implying that we all could develop new skills not only by remembering, but also by engaging in activities that change the very structures of our brain.